On this episode of Robe Chats, the podcast.
If you could connect with the script, then you just start getting that, that idea. For a designer, there's got to be a feel. You never know what's going to spark a particular student.
Lighting designer and educator, Kevin Lawson. Welcome back to Robe Chats, the podcast. My name is Brian Matthews. I am your host once again, and as you can see, we are still here at the USITT Conference and Expo here in Columbus, Ohio. And we are joined today, thankfully, by Mr. Kevin Lawson, lighting designer from UVLD and assistant professor of lighting design and technology at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music.
You got all that in one breath. That was impressive.
Kevin, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll just start with where we're at. Have you been to USITT before? Do you come here quite often?
I have. This is my fourth USITT in a row. Basically, since I started at UC, I started coming to USITT, and it's a really wonderful show because it's such a great mixture of students and educators, and also all of my friends and folks I see out on gigs and LDI and all the others. So it's a nice sort of mixture of the two worlds that I live in, the professional lighting world and the academic one. Yeah.
Well, we'll kick off the conversation by just kind of letting you take us back to the early days of Kevin Lawson. How did you get wrangled into this crazy world that we call live production and theater production? How did you get your start?
The origin story.
The origin story, if you will.
Well, like all of us, and I like to say that theater is a gateway drug to entertainment, right? Like so, high school theater, and did the usual kind of backstagey stuff, and thought I wanted to be a stage manager because we didn't really have positions, and that was kind of what I did. So I went to DePaul University in Chicago to be a stage manager, and discovered that really wasn't my calling, but I really enjoyed all the lighting crew stuff I was doing, and those modules in my classes and that kind of thing. And so funny enough, the head of the lighting design program was leaving at the end of my freshman year. Okay. So I went to him and I said, "Oh, can I come over to the lighting design program?" And he said, "Well, I don't see any reason I should let you in, but also I'm leaving, so you'll be the next guy's problem." So he let me in the program, and I was the next guy's problem, but it worked out pretty good. After college, I did a full year fellowship at Arena Stage, the Alan Lee Hughes Fellowship, and worked with Alan and some others, and then went to New York and worked with Beverly Emmons, and slowly started to work my way up the kind of Broadway assistant scale, lit some off Broadway, that kind of thing. And was doing pretty well in those avenues. But then I met a broadcast lighting designer, Alan Branton, and who was actually coming to do a Broadway show. He came in and lit Sandra Bernhardt's one-woman show on Broadway. And he needed an assistant. And I was a USA 829 lighting design assistant. And a mutual friend hooked us up. And he really liked having an assistant because on his broadcast stuff, he really didn't do that. Yeah. And so then I started following him around, and just whatever it called for, plots, notes, all that sort of thing. And then I can't remember what show it was on now, but it was like, "Hey, can you run the conventionals on a desk?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I can do that." And then it became, "Can you run some moving lights on that same desk?" Yeah, absolutely. I could do that. And that role just kept growing, and and I switched over a couple of different consoles along the way. But now I'm kind of full-time lighting director, programmer, lighting designer. Out of my professional world.
Yeah. Well, I like your story of how you have both worlds of theater and broadcast lighting. So we'll kind of touch on each. Yeah. When you are in those early stages of designing a theatrical show, what's sort of your game plan? How do you sort of tackle creating the light for theater?
It's funny. I got to light a play for the first time last year in 23 years. Actually for the school.
Got back on the horse.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a little bit like riding a bike, right? Like, so I lit Clue, and it the storytelling is not dissimilar in either avenue, but in theater, it starts with a script, which is great because you don't get that in broadcast. If you do, but it doesn't mean anything. It's banter. So you already have this roadmap of exactly what this show is going to be. And then you start just digging into what it feels like and what when you close your eyes and think about a scene, what you think in your mind it is. And then you start talking to everybody about it. The director, the set designer, the costume designer, you get into collaboration mode. But that's ultimately it. It starts with if you could connect with the script, then you just start getting that, that idea of what it, when I really think about this, what does this scene mean to me? And obviously it evolves over time and, as you're building a thing, and certainly by the time you're in the theater, but that's where it starts, is just, jotting down some ideas and then you get into the more, technical sides of things, like what do I actually need for this scene,
right.
And that kind of thing. But, and Clue is fun because it's, it's got all kinds of multiple locations through the house, and it's goofy, and it can use a lot of use a bunch of theatrical footlight and all the rest of that to build the dun 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 kind of tension and that sort of thing. But it was it's a lot of fun, but the structure of it, you start with a script and you start jotting down ideas and you just refine until it's finally hanging in the air and you're making cues.
When you're in those collaborative moments on a theater design where you're sitting with a scenic designer and a director and costume designer, mm-hmm. and you're in those production meetings, just talk a little bit about the importance of that collaboration and being able to collaborate with people, for the NRG students who might be watching or listening, or students here at USITT.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the nature of that collaboration that has to exist.
Well, that's what makes it fun, right? None of us do this because we want to be siloed. And that's why theater is always going to be a really incredible creative venture, because no one does it alone. Right. And so that's always going to be the basis of what we do is collaboration. I can be the best lighting designer in the world, but if I can't work with people, then I'm not going to be successful at it, because you're just not going to be able to do it. You want to have an idea, you want to have a vision for how you think a thing is going to go, but then you want to be absolutely flexible to what the other people in the production are saying and where they're going. And obviously, in a play, there's a director, but, in any avenue, whoever the kind of top of the creative pyramid is, right? They'll have a vision, you'll have a vision. The artist, if it's a rock show, is going to have a vision, right? It really depends on what it is. But ultimately, lighting design is almost sort of the last line of defense in most cases visually for a show. And we have to be nimble. We have to be willing to take Alan Bratton is fond of saying, ride the horse in the direction it goes, sometimes, right? So we have to be able to do that, and also, try to hold on to what we're trying to, do creatively. Right. But I've
never heard it put that way of being the last line of visual defense for a theater. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
So you've got the theater background, and you're working in theater, and then Mr. Branton comes along and pulls you into the world of broadcast lighting, and the two are, I guess you can call them related, but not. What was the biggest learning curve going from lighting theater to now lighting for cameras?
Yeah, instead of doing this, doing that. Right. And that's the thing that people get in trouble when they start doing broadcasts, when they start doing television, is that you were so used to looking up and trying to make it look great from the live audience perspective and the big, and our own perspective from front of house and one seat. Once you start doing multi-camera television, you have to look at it in a monitor. You have to look at what all those shots are. You can't be fooled into thinking that something looks amazing in the room, but you haven't related to how it looks in the camera, and that's the hardest learning curve, I think, for people that are getting into, particularly if they come from a place of like converting a live show to something that's going to be taped, because it is a little bit of two heads. We when you go and you watch pretty much any kind of broadcast, right? We get excited about the wide shot, but we live in the wide shot like 3% of the time, right? We're looking at one person, two people, just their head, like a close up, two shot, all the rest of that. And then if we're lucky, when we got a big cue going into the chorus, the director goes wide, but ultimately we spend most of our time, at least in the things they do, award shows and concerts and that sort of thing, in that pocket of, looking at a person. And that's why people are watching the thing, right? Like, they're watching, Taylor Swift or whoever it is, right? They're there to see, yes, the spectacle of the whole show and what we're doing, but ultimately they want to, be able to have that intimate contact with them. And if you're, blowing up the close up with a bunch of, terrible green light or something like that, right? Like then you've ruined that
green
part
light from above.
Yeah, then you've ruined that part of it. Like these people have to look as incredible, on camera as people expect them to be in their heads, right? They have to be sort of the best versions of themselves. And that's not to say that we like, everybody like, for glamorous purposes. There are definitely artists who want, to have that key light come from some weird angle, or footlight, or, the Beastie Boys had green follow spots, there are moments where you are making conscious choices to, for lack of a better term, mess somebody up.
Right.
Right. Whereas you don't want to do it just because you just got a bunch of stuff whizzing around and it's whacking them in the head, and and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, kind of following the chain of, we talked about the collaboration in theater. When you go into the broadcast world, now you've got this director of photography guy, or the video guys in the truck, that are talking to you.
Yeah.
What's that? Who wins in that situation, right? Because you've done a lot of award shows, you've done a lot of inaugurations, and people in the audience are there for the show as well.
Yep.
But the millions of people watching through the monitor at home are for a different show.
Right.
So how does that collaboration work of the audience versus the audience at home?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, like the audience they're almost scenery. Right. Like you want to see those people and you want to feel that energy and all the rest of that, with the exception of, like if it's an award show, we obviously have the, the ringside VIP section of the people that are gonna be excited when they win, and you want to make sure they all look glamorous and all the rest of that. But in your sort of, regular audience of, fans seeing a music concert or something like that, then they're there to be soaked into the environment and react to what's going on stage and bring that energy. So I don't want to say we care less about them, but we care less. Right? Like, it's ultimately
not officially saying we care less.
Just don't take it personally. But it is ultimately about who that broadcast is going to. Like, there's 2 million eyes that are looking at it, on that monitor, and 500 people in a couple thousand people in an arena or something like that. So that's the sort of numbers game of it. We don't want those people in the arena to have their experience diminished by anything we're doing, right? So you try to avoid, banging lights directly in their eyes so they can't see, or any of that kind of stuff. You obviously want to make sure that the talent is lit in a way that they are able to see as well. But it's less about them and more about the broadcast. Yeah. So, but as far as like engineers, video engineers and whatnot, they're our collaborators as well. And a few years back, even the Television Academy put the shaders, the engineers, into the lighting category with us, and they now are part of the lighting team, because they are, in fact, the person that has the last knob
before it gets to the broadcast audience.
Yeah, in whatever we're doing, right? And so we don't they can't do a good job if we're not doing a good job, and obviously vice versa. So, yeah.
Do you have particular video shaders that you work with a lot? I mean, is it typically same crew, so they kind of know your working style, you know their working style?
I'm lucky in the sense that we often see the same people on these larger format shows, right?
Yeah.
Like there's I would say that there's 5 to 10 people that we work with all the time, and in the corporate world, there's sort of about the same amount. There's not as much crossover between the two, but directors and shaders and all the rest of that, they're just people that kind of rise to the top of that particular craft and are really good at it. And the ones that are really good at it are as creative and artistic as we are, and understand what we're doing and have can have a quick discussion about it. One of the things that Alan's taught me that he's really kind of insistent about it is don't chase us, right? Like what you get in this sort of you can get in this kind of push pull with a camera shader where they look at it and they go, oh, it's too dark, and they open the iris a little bit more, and then you go, oh, that's too bright. You take down a little bit, and you're just back
so
and forth.
You're just going back and forth,
right,
and back and forth.
And so we like to let's find a set of iris settings and all the rest of that work for all of us, a good place to start, and then let us manage it. And then if we're really like in trouble, some handheld cameraman has gone and found somebody in the audience who's weeping, but they're in a dark spot, then they can up the gain on it a little bit just to help us out. But that level of kind of setup collaboratively from the beginning, from when we're on camera, is critical to doing a good job. So,
just looking back, I was reading through your bio, and there's like over 200 broadcast productions that you've done. Is there any ones that kind of stand out in your mind where you look back and you're like, everything really just kind of worked, on this one, and that was a really good experience? Are there any that really stand out in your mind?
Yeah, Obama election night. We did the rally in Grant Park. Worked with lighting insider Bob Peterson, and I programmed that, and for many reasons that was an incredible night. And it was a simple show lighting wise, but it was a thing of as we sat and we talked about it, we realized that anything that we messed up that night, we would see television for the rest of our lives, because every time there's going to be an election or some sort of appearance by President Obama,
no pressure.
There might be a little clip from that night, and the last thing you want is some light wigging out in the background or something, right? So it was incredibly buttoned up, but it was just such an amazing experience, but a fairly simple lighting one. And then as far as music concerts, we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 25th anniversary concerts, which were 2 nights in Madison Square Garden, and it pretty much had anybody that had ever done anything in rock and roll was featured over those nights. So, and it was a fantastic 2 evenings of music, and just incredible.
They say MSG's a magical place, was it?
It is. It's a great arena. I've worked in it several times, but those 2 nights, just with that talent assembled was next level. That was incredible.
How did you go about creating that design? Was that like you basically create the plot and then they kind of give you the songs they're going to do and you kind of figure it out? Or you working in collaboration with their designers?
There wasn't a lot of time. So I want to say we were in there for 72 hours before the first show. Okay. All right. So there were some overnights. So Felix Peralta was the other lighting director with me. So we programmed. We did a bunch of previs as far as we could. Alan Brand was the lighting designer, and we had some guests that came from some of the bigger acts, but for the most part, they were like the highest of the professionals who realized the time constraint. They all knew Alan. They all know us. Like, it's, nobody was there to tell us what to do.
Right.
It was there. How can we help? How can we dig in? How can we make this,
That's great.
Awesome and special? And so that happens more often than not, particularly when you're dealing with any long established musical act, because they know they're coming into a thing, and it's not necessarily their show if it's multi-act thing, but they know what makes they're part of it feel like they're part of it. And so, so when we get a chance to, get a Roy Bennett or Corey Fitzgerald or somebody coming with an act to kind of, talk about it, that in fact is collaborative as well. And just raises all of our games, I think. So, yeah.
Let's move a little bit now from your work as a designer to your work as an educator.
Yeah.
You're also, as we mentioned, the assistant professor at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. Just talk a little bit about that program. How is that program work, and what do you guys do inside there?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is a bit of almost like a home game for us because we're in Columbus, so we're only about an hour and a half drive from Cincinnati. So this place is crawling with our students. They're all over the place, which is so great. We called up classes so that everybody had a chance to come up. Everybody in theater, design, and production. So we are part of CCM's theater design and production unit, which includes set design program, costume design, sound design, stage management, TDs, hair, wigs, and makeup, props. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, and I'll apologize to them later. But at any rate, so we're a pretty wide-ranging design and production program. Specifically to lighting design and technology, we have both a graduate program and an undergraduate program.
Okay.
And one of the things and one of the reasons I have a job is that we are looking at lighting as an industry that is much wider than just the theatrical, right? And the bedrock of that, theatrical training is scalable to anything. I like to say, like, if you can light a musical, you can light a rock show. You may not be able to go the other way because there's, as we discussed, collaboration and structure and all the rest of that. That's kind of necessary for something that's script based, musical theater based, or so we have an acting program, musical theater, opera, and dance that we work with. So our students get a nice assortment of genres. Each of those programs does 3 shows a year that we light. And so there's just a lot of opportunity. We have 3 venues, so the students kind of work, these 4 different genres in 3 different venues, and it feels like very different professional experiences as they migrate through the program. And and it's a lot of shows. Our season's minimum of 12
quite
shows.
Full.
Yeah, it's quite full. We're quite busy. I like to say one of the best things about CCM is that we do a lot of shows, and sometimes one of the worst things about CCM is we do a lot of shows. But we're primarily, it's about experiential training. So we're teaching you things in classes, and that is translating directly into responsibilities in the theater. So as you learn more, you do more. And so it just sort of, works out that people go along. But one of the great things about it is there's room for exploration. People come in to the program with all sorts of thoughts about what they're going to do in their future, right? Like, certainly when I went to school, the brass ring was Broadway lighting designer, right? When you really start to think about it, there's 14, 15 people that get to do that on the planet at any given time, right? So that's a very, very small wedge of the pie. And we don't try to begrudge anybody that wants to go and pursue that way, because if you work hard, you get there. You can be an assistant. Luckily, maybe you get to light an off-Broadway show and it gets moved up or something like that. So there's always that possibility. But more often than not, a lot of them want to go and do concerts and broadcasts and corporate, we have a module where people come in and do talk about architectural lighting. And we've had students that I didn't know anything about architectural lighting. They didn't know anything about architectural lighting, but they're excited and then by it. You never know what's going to spark a particular student. So we try to show them all of the possibilities that are out there in this this massive industry that we've created. And so
when you're in those moments and you're talking to your students and you're kind of just trying to relay to them what it takes to do this kind of work, what is the foundation that you try to instill in them of, just generally speaking, what qualities does a good designer need to have?
Well, we've said the word collaboration a lot, but that's a huge part of it, and it's being able to work well with others. So that's a good start. I think that for designers that are great, I think that there is a little bit of, ingrained vision there, right? Like, that, they know it when they see it.
Right.
And they can imagine it before they see it. All right. And so there's that, but that's it's almost unteachable. We can teach the tools. We can teach the fundamentals, intensity, composition, color, all, movement, all these kind of like, fundamentals of lighting, theatrical and otherwise. But there's also got to be, for a designer, there's got to be a feel for it. And some people have it and, some people don't, but there are plenty of other options and career paths inside this industry that we also encourage. All our students take a full year of moving light programming with me. So a lot of them want to be programmers. There's stage electrics class and lighting technology class, because a lot of them want to be production electricians and all kinds of other occupations along the spectrum of technical to artistic.
Right.
That's where the wide net of career opportunities are for them, and so they get a chance to sort of explore that inside the school. However they come in thinking they're going to go one way or the other. We get ones that switch all the time, right? But we keep all those options open to them, and they learn, because even if you say to me, I absolutely want to be a designer. That's what I want to do. We're going to work hard to make sure that you have those opportunities, but also that you take those electrics classes so that you understand what the other end of the snake has to deal with, right? That you understand what it means when you say, let's move those 20 lights over there,
Right.
And vice versa, right? Like even if you say, I don't want to design it all, ick, you want to make sure that you understand what it's like to be at that tech table or front of house and feel what that pressure is like, so that, when you're back doing a thing and you're communicating, you're giving that designer or programmer that you're talking to what they need as well.
How important is that when you do get out into the professional world, whether you're theater, broadcast, concert lighting, to understand how other departments work? How valuable is that?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's huge. And again, it's, going back to sort of the lighting being the last line of defense. That also requires a certain level of responsibility for knowing enough about other departments. We joke about, staying in our lane, right? But we have to know how to interact with, with all of the other departments, right? The costume doesn't look right if we don't put the right light on it. The scenery, if they need to move something, it's almost certainly going to require lighting to move a little bit. And what are our tolerances for doing that? All those kind of little things that are discovered in tech, like this thing looks better if you light it this way and not as good as if you light it that way. Could you not put the wrinkles in my drop, if you side light it? All those little things, right? And so I think what you end up with is a lighting professional that is knowledgeable enough around other departments to be able to understand and empathize with what they're doing, to be able to help and advise if possible, and also just to be a more well-rounded person and participating in a production process.
With all those varying outlets that you offer for the students to kind of go on into, is there much talk about how they should gauge or measure themselves to be successful, right? Because not like everybody can't get the big Broadway show. Like you said, there's only 14 people that are going to get that job.
Right.
Do you talk to them much about how they should just internally for themselves gauge success or try to measure success?
Yeah, we do. Often. It comes down to a couple of things. One, are you enjoying the work that you're doing? Two, are they paying you for the work you're doing? Like, can you actually, because we got to eat. And three, almost more important than enjoying the work, it's enjoying the people that you are working with. Because again, it's collaborative, and we spend a lot of time together in a in a theater, an arena, wherever, whatever that is, design studio even. So you kind of need those three things wherever it falls into the spectrum of importance at the moment. So you can either have they always joke about you can good, fast, cheap, pick two. So one of my colleagues says in this case, it's you can have the people, you can have the show, or you can have the money. And you just have to, you might have to pick two. You might get three if you're lucky, but,
right.
You just have to decide where in that spectrum that you're going to be. And I think when you sort of think about it, one of the great things about what we do is that it changes all the time. So the show you're on now could be about because you're working with your friends, and that's going to be great. And then the next show could be, I got this, big corporate show that's going to, pay me a decent amount of money to pay for that other show.
Right.
Right. And so you can find that balance depending on, what you need at any given time and what those opportunities are.
Yeah.
I also tell them all the time that, experience is experience, right? Like if you have an opportunity to do a thing, unless it feels like it's, going to be an absolutely abusive, time, right? Just go do it. Right, because it's gonna end. It's a show. It's gonna be a couple of days or a couple of weeks at the most, right? Like give it a shot. You may find that the thing that you are afraid of or think you're not as interested in becomes something that's that's really interesting.
With all of the collaborative environments that you've talked about, just speak a little bit about the necessity of how you carry yourself professionally. Right, you can have all the technical expertise in the world, but people don't want to work with you. They don't want to work with you, right?
So, I mean, you basically said it, right? Like you can be the most talented lighting programmer, right? And if you can't get along with designers and everybody else that you're working with, they're going to hire the next talented guy because that's a person that is going to be more pleasant to work with and is going to collaborate more and not piss off everybody, right? So it's huge. The other thing, I often get asked, what piece of advice to give to people, particularly young students, is their young professionals as they're getting out. It's like, find something that's not lighting to talk about, right? We have very long days in production, and then you go out to a meal, and sometimes there's nothing worse than having somebody that just wants to talk about the gig you're on during dinner, whatever it is.
It's like being on a trade show floor and going to dinner and talking about lighting.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like you're going to do a certain amount of that. Of course, that's our community. That's our thing, right? Like that's the thing we all love to talk about and all the rest of that. But you got to be able to talk about something else too.
Like maybe the Detroit Lions?
Yes, like the Detroit Lions.
I was creeping on your Facebook.
You did your research. You did your research. The other day, as a joke, somebody during a production meeting, the stage managers often ask a sort of non-related question to everybody in the room as you go around and introduce yourselves. And they ask what your favorite color is, and I said Honolulu blue. So at any rate,
I think you guys might do it next year. You're so close.
Oh man,
you're so close.
Oh man, don't get me started. All right, I can only hope so. But honestly, that is one of those things. Like football, we go out with Alan and Felix and all these guys, and we talk football.
Right.
Because you can only talk about lighting so much in your day before you start to go slightly bonkers, right? But it's absolutely true. Like ultimately, you end up in these teams, or at least people that you're working with frequently and all of that, and it becomes about enjoying their company almost as it is about enjoying the work. And it's critical. If you don't enjoy those people that are on headset with you and that you're going to lunch with and all the rest of that, like it just won't work. And if you're not happy doing this, do something else, right? There's so many other things to do, so many easier things to do in the world, right? Like you think of all the potential occupations and things out there, like this is hard.
Right.
It's great and it's incredible, and we're privileged to work on these fantastic shows and with all these like-minded individuals and all the rest of that. But man, there's nothing easy about it. We work long hours, and we say we get to go to glamorous places, but we go to a hotel and then go to a convention center and, the rest of that, right? Like it's you get some of that. But ultimately, like if you are not excited about this work and you think of a world where at the end of your day, you get to go home at 5 or 6 and you get weekends off to go camping or whatever, do that.
Yeah.
Because you have to really want this.
With the understanding that this business is hard,
Yeah,
and it is sort of a grind at times, you're obviously passionate about it. What does that passion come from? What makes you passionate about theater and about broadcast lighting? What
I
is it?
love it. I mean, it's just awesome. Like, even when it's hard, it's great. You can't sit there in an arena full of people listening to some awesome band play something and not be like, man, this is cool.
Right.
Right. Whether it's hour, 3 in your day or 16. We did the Fire Aid concerts a couple of weeks ago in Los Angeles, and those
nice.
shows were incredibly long. We it all got staged and lit and under rehearsed and all the rest of that in 3 days. And in the end, I think because it was split between 2 venues, and the concert itself was like 7 hours long, and we were on the whole time. But at the end of the night, I had, Stevie Wonder and Billie Eilish and Lady Gaga close the thing, right? And it opened with, at our venue, it opened with, oh boy, so you can tell my age. I forget, it was only a couple of weeks ago, but you just have all these incredible acts, and they just keep coming, and so it's hard to look at that and not be just excited about being a part of that, and little part of this history and the shared experience that's going on with the audience, be it in the room or at home or any of that kind of stuff. And that's just the exciting part of this. There's nothing cooler than to be in an arena when the house lights go out, and that moment of just everybody's anticipating what's gonna happen next, and you just it's just, and if and it's impossible to explain to somebody that hasn't experience that. And it doesn't matter. I'm 54 years old now, and I don't imagine that it will ever change, that when that happens I get goosebumps and and a little bit nervous, or we're counting down to a live broadcast and they hear the AD in your head, saying we're live in 10, 9, it's always going to have that charge and that, thrill and that little bit of fear.
I guess a little bit of fear keeps you on your toes.
It absolutely does, right? The day you feel like all this is easy, you're probably going to mess it up.
Right. Yeah, you're going to get somebody yelling in your headset at you.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you get out on this one last question. Yeah. I like to ask this of people just to kind of hear what their thoughts would be. But if you could meet a young Kevin Lawson, back before he, when he was still in high school and finding his way, and before he began the journey, what advice would you leave him with? What would you want to tell him?
Ooh, I wouldn't want to do anything that would mess him up. I'm pretty happy where I am right now. Yeah. So you make that joke about what would you get in a time machine and go back and what would you change anything? I don't think I would change anything. I would just tell him to just keep, just saying yes to things that are a little frightening or a little weird, or any of that kind of stuff that that you don't think that this is the way your life is going, right? I left college thinking, I'm going to be a Broadway lighting designer and win a Tony, but when I'm 30, obviously did not have it. I won an Emmy when I was 52. That's pretty good too, right? So you just go ride the horse in the direction it's going.
Ride the horse in the direction it's going.
Yeah. So do that.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us.
Absolutely.
We really
It's a pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this. Yeah.
Remember, you can find our podcast on all your favorite podcasting platforms. You can also watch us on YouTube. And we'll sign off today wishing you make it the Robe way. You can always find the way. Have a great day.